Hello, hello. So it is 29 degrees here in Minnesota, and I was wandering through the yard and thought it might be a good time to give you a winter tour of our dead garden. Um, there's obviously nothing blooming, nothing really going on, and you can't see a fair percentage of the plants, but I figured it might make it easier if I'm going to be referencing projects or talking about parts of the yard, to have something to show what I'm talking about. And I also, as I was wandering through, kind of enjoyed having another view of our garden. All spring, all summer, and all fall. It was, we were constantly taking garden walks at lunchtime, and I was doing tons of work during the week, and I don't know, it's a different place. So, for all those reasons, I figured it would be fun to share. So, we'll start out front in what is easily my least favorite part of the garden, possibly my second least favorite, but this is the little front garden that we have. And it is gravel underneath that mulch. So, one second, I'm going to be a bit of a heathen and light my pipe here. So, corn cob. We have several different types of sedum growing in this section, and then you can see some of the fallen leaves from the iris that are here as well. There was a bed of iris in this section, same spot when we moved in. It was all old school purple iris, which nothing against, I just wanted a wider selection, so we dug those out, got a few other varieties from Maria's mother, and spread the different colors out. I believe we filled this with red and yellow and maybe a couple of the purple. None of them bloomed this year. I'm convinced that we planted them too deep, but I'm going to have to dig them up. Long term, I want to completely get rid of this garden and redo it. Same with this shrub and some of the other shrubs around there. In an ideal world, I could build an addition on the front and give us a small covered front porch and then build a garden around it, but that is extreme long term. And here, along the front of the house, is sort of the same situation. There's nothing growing here. We have a few different landscape shrubs that came with the house. There is a hydrangea there, and one over here. We put them in. They were given to us last year, like this last summer. Who knows if they're going to bloom ever. The endless summer, or as they're called here in Minnesota, endless bummer. In front of this section, we have a bunch of daffodils, which bloomed nicely last year. And then there's a hosta here, one of the cup types with the nice thick blue leaves. This is a lovely lilac that blooms that you can see from our bedroom window up there sometimes during the spring. And there are some evening primrose that I shoved in here after they were given to us. Oh, look! There's a bunny! Oh, poor little guy. Oh, I hate to scare them. So along the fence line here, I have filled in the area with a whole bunch of our mowed up leaves, and then some raked in. My intent is to try and quell the surge of quack grass coming in from the neighbor's yard and plant a bunch of clover over there. Under this conifer, I won't say whether it's a pine or a cedar or anything, because I don't know. Really bad at identifying trees. We planted, too many things, and it was all a bunch of wasted time. The only thing that seems to want to grow here is the wild geranium that is covered in leaves. Let's see if I can show you any of it. We planted a couple pieces that Maria's mother gave us, and they did really well this past summer and spring, which were their first real growing season, and we're probably just going to let it fill up with that. I'm going to be growing some mushrooms this year. I ordered some inoculum for wine caps, and there is a chance I will set the mushroom bed up here, but I'm not positive yet. I'm thinking that the layer of stuff, the sawdust or wood chips and straw and things, keeping it separate from the base soil might help, but I think long term I'm going to have to get a soil test and do some real careful planting, because we put a ton of ferns here and they all did terribly and died back. Who knows if they're going to come back next year. I put down a bleeding heart and it died. Even daylilies seemed to just give up the ghost shortly after going into the ground. I don't know if it's too acidic or too dry or what, and I really need to be careful about that. This is a very dark portion of the front yard. The three or four, whatever, the trees up here, they really shield it. So you can see there's moss still growing, and I'm a huge fan of letting the moss take over because, it's a nice ground cover. It does a good job, and less mowing, so it's somewhat ecologically responsible, and it just feels nice to walk on. These concrete pavers, there are 3 of them. I put them here. We had them already in the garage. I figured I'm going to be growing some forget-me-nots, and I want to put them in the grass, let them grow, do their thing. So perhaps that's where they will go. Under this tree, it gets quite full. We have, I believe, some bee balm and Jacob's ladder and something else that are planted relatively close to the tree. All of the lighter colored mulch is from the last load of mulch we got, and just sort of spread out what we put in at the beginning of the year. I probably do need to pull some of the mulch away from the trees, but it's not mounded as high as you might think if there are any concerned arborists watching. This tree had quite the crown around it, just of soil. So again, it's not as heaped up as you might think. I just tried to cover the grass, and again, I will pull things away. There is a hosta buried under here somewhere. There's a queen of the prairie somewhere over here. And I don't think I planted anything else around this tree. We do have a lot of deer, and rabbits, as you saw. Despite the fact that we are in suburbia, because there are a couple parks relatively nearby, and it seems like they come out for a snack. I'm thinking of purchasing some extremely large hostas. There's one called Komodo that I think surrounding this tree that get like apparently 7 feet wide. So it would be amazing just to have this mound of gigantic leaves here. And it would really save us from trying to deal with all of the roots and, in the future having to mulch less around the tree, keep it protected, all that fun stuff. We will see. This one gets what I would consider like high partial sun. So I'm not totally sure what we're going to do here. There is a bit of coral bell. I'm forgetting what the proper name for it is, but there's some there. And, what is that? Is that Jacob's ladder? I think that's Jacob's ladder here, this bit of stalk. And then, what is it? I'm forgetting. I remember somebody said it was pretty lame, and that was a bit of a pun. But we have this nice little pollinator plant that I'm forgetting the name of. I may plant my honeyberries around this tree. We'll see. Again, long term, I'm pursuing a sort of rooms kind of concept for all of the art. My mom's godmother had this beautiful 100-year-old garden that she had worked on, since she was a kid. Her parents planted it, and she never left her childhood home, and it was divided up into these beautiful sections. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it was wonderful. And it was always like every grouping of plants was a different room you could be in outside, and it was always this wonderful adventure. And I want that for myself and my children. So we're going to try and do that. I might plant a wall of shrubs coming down here around this tree and another going up at some point here. Perhaps some willows. I would need to find out where our water lines are so I don't end up getting trees growing into them. But I mean, as you see, I have quite a lot of tree here already. But the willows would be nice for basket making. And if I haven't made it clear, I want to grow things that I can do things with, and as many things that I can do things with as possible. Not so that I always have to have a crafty thing going, but because I want to be able to. We made this little iris bed around the mailbox last year, just like the ones up front, did not bloom at all. I don't know if it was the road salt or, again, being planted too deep. If they do not bloom this spring, I'm going to dig them up and replant them much more shallow. Over here, we have some catmint. This is a taller type of sedum here that you can just barely see. A whole bunch of iris. There's a very young Russian sage and a young baptisia in here. This was their first full growing season, so they're pretty small, haven't even started really doing anything yet. This is a log that came out of my first delivery from Chip Drop last year, or over the summer, and at some point a friend of mine with a chainsaw is going to have to chop it up. Here we have the beginnings of our front orchard. Not sure if the chokeberries or the elderberries are going to come out here. Chokeberries might be nice because the deer will be less likely to strip it bare, but again, not totally positive. Somewhere in this region here will be the plum thicket that I'm growing. Again, two European plums, an American plum, and a hybrid. And then I'm thinking along the back here might be a good place for some of my currants and gooseberries. I think I have 3 or 4 of each, and that'll be quite nice. You can see this stake right here marks the end of the property line. So we have quite this wide strip of easement going between the property line and the street. I don't want to plant anything beloved there, but I do want to try and fill it up with some plants. I'm thinking I might go with some Shasta daisies or something that can be short. We'll fill it in with flowers part of the year, or catmint as well. That was something we'd considered. Things that were relatively easy to save and propagate if the city needs to come and dig things up. And then somewhere in this region, I may be planting a pear tree if there's enough room and if we feel like it's going to work next year. I've already ordered a Seckel pear, but we don't know if there's a space for it. And then we have this little garden bed that's got some chives and, shrub of some sort that I'm forgetting the name of, some sedum. That was one of the first garden beds and there's lady's mantle in there. It was one of the first garden beds we did, and it extended all the way down the side of the house, and it wasn't blocked off until we had the fence installed this spring. We have a sumac here. There's nothing else planted there or all the way down that section of fence, but this is where we're going to plant the grapes. It's not 100% ideal for grapes. There is a fair bit of shade in the afternoons. I'm hoping that we can kind of get the grapes sort of heaped up on top and that they will produce there. This section is our future perennial and produce bed. It was a large section of concrete pavers that I dug up towards the end of the summer, removed a chain link fence that went all the way around here and back to the corner of the house here. And there had been a tree here that was doing quite poorly when we moved in, so we had it cut down. This is what Maria called our depression bed. My mother sent a bunch of daffodils and peonies out from my childhood home when our spring was starting and hers was ending. So they had grown quite a bit and fell over immediately and were miserable all year. We have no idea what's going to come back. So this section currently has our raspberries in it. I think I'm going to dig them up in the spring and plant a rose bush here and here. We have some sedum. So there's some gaillardia here and some allium right about there. Coneflowers. There are a couple patches of sedum that you can see. Creeping phlox right here. We have Austrian copper rose, Siberian iris. There's a tree peony down here that's probably dead, also sent out from my childhood home. Some bee balm, spirea, that's the name of the shrub that was up front that I couldn't remember. Frau Dagmar roses hiding in here. There's a pasque flower here, some phlox here. Cardinal Richelieu rose hiding in here. Some asters. Cannot remember the name of what is there. We have some fire witch dianthus surrounding the what is it called? My brain is just not working. There's gaillardia. There's what may be a perennial mum. We will see next year. Burgundian. There's a Burgundian rose in there. Sedum. A huge bed of iris and sedum here. And then from about here, all around there is a collection of hostas, and there's a rhubarb plant back there. And then we have some hyssop and some joe pye there and there. And our lilac bed all here with a high bush cranberry that got planted in after we trimmed all of the dead and dying lilacs off. And there's a whole bunch of sedum planted in this area. It's probably going to get shaded out once the lilacs fill in next year, so we're going to end up moving it out. We have a red twig dogwood, and there are a couple of daylilies hiding in here. Our spots for our apples, obviously, from the previous video. This was my failed moss garden. I started it in the spring after we first moved here, and it fared quite poorly because there's just way too much sun. Now we already talked about what was over there. This strip next to the fence here, spent the summer killing it off with some tarps and put down a Pollinator Palooza seed mix from Prairie Moon Nursery. So hopefully in the next couple of years, once everything's established, we will end up with a nice, tall, full pollinator garden there. Just a nice, diverse group of plants that can support the beneficial insects we need in our life. The elderberry here, and it has some daffodils underneath that we're going to end up having to move out because they'll get shaded. And then throughout here we have several different hostas and ferns with a couple of crocus bulbs that I put down this fall, and some fritillaries that, again, put down this fall. Then we have this section, which I'll fill in with clover. There are some coral bells here. This is our creeping Charlie bed, and hosta and Indian grass. And I've had to rush because my camera only does 20-minute videos, and I literally have 31 seconds left. So with that, I will say a very hasty goodbye, and yeah, have a good one. I'll see you soon.